Winspiration, the way to the essential. On UK Health Radio, Winspiration brings wisdom and information for an extraordinary future. Together, we can shape the world we want to live in. So let's get real and create the idea. Be extraordinary. Welcome to another episode of Winspiration Radio. And once again, we have Steve Harvey here on the show. We had a lot of talks already about spiritual stuff, personal development, consciousness. And today, maybe it's a mixture of everything, talking about, oh gosh, what's going on in the world and how can we now in the next 15 minutes solve all the problems on planet Earth? As you know, we changed our slogan from Winspiration Radio, the wait for the essential, so growth principles for humanity and progress. So we believe still, and we're still some kind of optimists, but we know also we are really at the edge with society, and we need to be aware of what we're doing. More and more separation, more and more we see wars and everything, and countries in the Western world. So much in depth. So that is maybe not the nicest introduction we had otherwise. And so first of all, how do you see, Steve, the world? You're still optimistic?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
I think so. You know, I think of the lyrics from a Coldplay song, Everyday Life, and it says, "We've got to keep dancing when the lights go out."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so what other alternative is there? You know, what I hear a lot with people these days, they keep saying to me, the whole world has gone bonkers. You know,
yeah, but I think it's not really optimistic. If you say, "Oh, the light goes out," that feels more like the Titanic, and the band, they said, was still playing. So
as it thinks. Yeah, I think, you know, when the light goes out, or I think it's about really dying to the past and being reborn to the new. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, like every transition through history, we've had to go through that destruction and the creation of something new and better. And, you know, I think that's, you know, the cyclical nature of life.
If you just follow Ray Dalio and see with the long-term cycles and so on. But transition was in the past often with revolution and not really transformation.
Right.
So, well, first of all, when we say now here, humanity and progress, can you agree to this? We see, okay, what all evil or whatever we see and the bad stuff now, and that is just a part of historical development, and a lot of old things show up or fight to survive, but they will not survive. Whatever comes, so maybe nobody survives, but the old stuff for sure can't go on like this.
Right. You know, and that's what Buckminster Fuller says, you can never change the reality by fighting the existing. You know, you've got to create something new.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with, you know, even the survival of the species. You know, we know that there are species that become extinct, and life goes on. And I think this is what I say, we're dying to the past to be reborn to the new. Something new and better is trying to emerge, but it has to go through that. I mean, it's like human beings when we're born, you know, we have to go through that pain of coming through the birth canal. Mm-hmm. And once we come out, you know, then that transformation, I think, as you spoke about, begins. So I'm always trying to be the optimist that, you know, that something better is going to come from all of this. You know, Deepak Chopra was listening to the other day, and he said that it's a world that is sleepwalking its way into insanity. I thought, yeah, that really you can't argue with that. But yeah, I think we have to try and keep that optimism alive somehow, and really believe in humanity. Um, and that means coming back to really um, seeing us all as one. Seeing ourselves as brothers versus enemies. You know, I think that's where all the conflict comes from, is believing that we're separate.
Yeah. Well, that's all the suffering comes from, or whatever. Yeah. Or anyway, yeah, the ancient guys always were talking about. Yeah, well, I think it's also part of the history. We had here a country, there a country. We have these nations, and they could survive on their own. And now with all this global, partly progress, we were still not really thinking. I'm just at the moment in South Africa, as you know, and he is really a special energy because of Mandela, and they call themselves also the Rainbow Nation. So he really created something that whatever color or whatever nationality it was before, beliefs and whatever, made one religion out of it. Not religion, besides the religions, one country and one humanity somehow. That was really interesting. Attended my first time, because we were once in a pub looking at soccer. There was a rugby final world champion. I was in a pub, and everybody was dressed green there. And that was an interesting experience, because I learned from the UK there are hooligans, and in Germany or whatever. There was wonderful energy. They were excited and everything, but so caring at the same moment. They took it. Oh, can you see? Can you see to the screen? And it was really impressive that they could be so excited, having so much fun, and still care about others. So the possibility is there.
Because I think that's who we are. Deep down inside the core, that's who we are. And yeah, if you can see the transformation that happened in South Africa, then that gives me hope that it can happen around the globe.
Yeah.
But how do we get there? I think, it starts with one person at a time and one thought at a time, and this is the challenge,
Well, it says South Africa is one, and the other one, a country I really admire, is Singapore. It's a totally different way. Obviously, Singapore is so, we get kind of luxury, modern. You don't have the feeling here, even if it's a modern country in South Africa. But it's amazing also, there's so different religions and everything in Singapore, but no crime, no corruption. So if there is a strong leader with real guidance and higher values, then I think it's possible, like Mandela. But those people are rare. We don't have them at the moment somewhere else. And what some people say, the higher value or higher order, and like we see it in the Western world, especially with young people, religion is not the higher order anymore. And in the US, maybe the Declaration of Independence is not really the higher order anymore. And so if there is no higher order, yeah, okay, then we get separation. Then we go on all the separation. Yeah.
And I think that's, again, what comes, speaking of religions, I think the goal originally was to bring people together, but it's really caused more division, more separation, and from that is I'm right and you're wrong, instead of, I am that, you're that, all this is that, and that's all there is. We're all one. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing more and more people moving away from, the traditional religious values, and trying to really get in touch with their own hierarchy of values, while at the same time being understanding and other people's values and being respectful of that, and then learn how to communicate their values in terms of the other person's values to create a win-win. And I think that's the way of the future. But that, as you say, that takes leadership. And, I'm still sitting here watching to see who that new leader is emerging. But maybe it's not about one person being the leader. Maybe it's about every person stepping into their own leadership.
That's for sure. That's the inspiration idea. You are your own sovereign, so you need to do your part, because we dream, like someone said, oh, everybody wants to change the world, but not change yourself. So that can't work. So we need to step up and do the best for highest good or highest possibility for ourselves that we can do. Families and the religion for sure is as we like with the churches, and they come people in power, a lot of responsibility for wars, even if the core of religions in general is more the love, and but also like the modern world, okay, now we could fly into space to the moon, and like we didn't found God, so there's no God, so we can skip everything, but we have nothing really as another order. So the only thing is what we had about thousands of years ago already. Also, money. And if just the money without purpose is the main guidance, then you violate everything. Yeah.
I think we need to have a greater sense of purpose than just chasing the almighty dollar all the time. At the end of the day, as I've worked with a lot of the top 1% around the globe, and sitting on the outside, you would look at them and say, okay, so you've got 6 billion. Why are you still working? And you see, it's not about the money for them.
Yeah. No, it's not about. Some people are so afraid losing it. I saw it in a financial crisis. Investment bankers who got a bonus last year for 10 million, now only for 5 million, and they have a nervous breakdown because they're so identified with it. It's not about the money; it's an illusion. And I know in Zurich, when they try to help them put some then in a horse stable and just shuffle the shit and everything to really ground them again. Yeah. And that is like you said, also be talking the values of the other person, but you need to first be interested in the other person, really interested, and that is at the moment not really that we don't see people, we just see objects or numbers. So otherwise governments couldn't have, like in Germany, the 5 million kids in poverty, or whatever, here 70 million people in the US with food stamps. Well, we have money for everything, but not for the people, not for the education and everything. Yeah, and that's so crazy. And living, the politicians most of the time like experience with the poor kids. That is like in French once, it's at least a saying that the Queen, Marie Antoinette, I guess, should have said, it says, oh, they don't have bread? No, then they should eat cakes. Yeah, so that's just crazy thinking. And it's the same feeling I had in Berlin with the kids. Why don't they go to work, or why don't they do that if you eat that? And there's people of the parliament who just fed from taxpayers' money. Yeah? It's so incredible this to see. Well, okay, I guess a lot of people see the separation, and we can complain, but we don't want to add too much to the negativity. One talk we talked about, because of your experience in all the super spas, you had super movers and shakers, like you said, as guests there, who really accomplished something. And we talked once, what is the success of a person? They had criteria there. Is it possible to see this criteria and put it on an organization and then maybe the country? So what should be the difference there? What should we teach, and not just for personal success or for society success?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to values again. I think the people who were really successful were the people who took the time to understand the other person's values and then learn how to communicate their values, whether that be their company's values or their own personal values, uh, in terms of the employees, so that they get a win. And together, everybody wins. But when the old model of the dictatorships and imposing their values on other people and expecting them to live according to their values, it never works. And so I think the ones that became successful had a different outlook on that. They were able to, as I say, seek first to understand them, be understood, and together with a shared common vision, create something, wonderful and very successful. But the other thing I think that successful people
still want to have this more in detail. What is really the value? Like in Corona terms, I saw that the governments worked with a lot of fear and guiding people. So what are the values there? Or I guess we once talked about a city. If you go where the rich people live, you see gardens, everything is in order. If you go where the so-called poor people are and everything, it's always on the streets, also chaos. So theoretically, it doesn't cost really money to have a little bit more order or have a clean house, or whatever. So if they're not doing it, is it not just a lack of value or just different values?
I think it's a different values.
Yeah.
And it's all, it's about the separation again, them versus us, but when that shift in consciousness happens and people see there, but for the grace of God go I, this is my brother and sister there. And whatever.
But that,
I think if
that would mean
I think the problem is outside of us, then we also think the solution is outside of us.
Yes.
And it's never outside. This is the thing, it's always an inside job. So we start to look at ourselves and how does every action that I take or thought that I have, how does that affect other people? Because we think it doesn't.
That needs already to be on a kind of level to ask this question. Otherwise, I don't care. I'm for the separation. And in this way, I wouldn't say it's about talking in their values, because if their value is for them separation, it doesn't help. So is this more education? Is it more raising consciousness or whatever we say? But how to do it? And we have now an interesting example with Israel and Gaza, where I think you see also not so much discussion to really bring all this to a next level. It's just a question, how far should the Israelis go in or not? Yeah, more civilian casualties or not? But these are the wrong questions.
This is it.
If Israel goes in and even could destroy Hamas, if it's possible, it's not the end. Yeah, it will go on. If Israel stops and let the Hamas live, it's not the end. The shit goes on. So how do we go to a different level where it's all stop and understand? my book, Better the Whole World Against Me Than My Soul, I wrote about the Gaza. So there's fence on both sides, moms with little kids. So oh, I hope that my kid can. But then they train them to throw stones. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, again, the separation. It starts from that.
And
So
so
people.
When I was in Jerusalem with different interfaith organizations, and then on the, say, normal level of people, they wanted to hug each other and be, but then there are politicians there, some power guys, and then the normal people follow easy then their own rulers or whatever, leaders, because they don't trust that it will really work. So how, when you say we are one, it could be how we create the trust?
I think it's through dialogue. It's through education and dialogue, and for people to discover that we're more alike than we're different, and there may be some truth in what our so-called enemy is actually saying. And can we, and so it's really about having that caring relationship, that we care enough, find a solution.
And it's not the win-lose game. It's just and this, what Mandela greatly did, and says, okay, whatever was, now here starts forgiveness, and how do we really want to live, and go from there.
I heard a story the other day, and a fellow was talking about the Dalai Lama had a friend who was a monk who had been imprisoned in a Chinese concentration camp for 20 years. And then it was finally released, and they met up with the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama asked him what his experience was like. And he said, it was very dangerous. And he said, can you explain a bit more? What do you mean by that? And he said that there was many occasions where he came very close to losing his compassion for his guards. See, and this, I think, is really about having that compassion for our fellow man. Everybody's a saint and sinner, and if you can spot it, you've got it. But can you love it and have compassion for that? And I think that's what's missing. Is really coming from that place of loving our fellow man and understanding, that, whatever I can spot in them or her, I can find it and own it in myself. And also, how does it serve me? How does it serve others? Because we're so used to thinking that there's a drawback without a benefit, and they must coexist. Every event equal benefit and drawback. But when you're in the middle of a war zone, it sounds really airy. That's a lot of rubbish when the rockets are dropping.
We know about most people know about Marshall Rosenberg, who, as an American, was in a region where they were bombing and they killed, and this Arab tells a murderer, and he could communicate that after an hour he was sitting with the Arab in the tent and they were having food together. And I think it was not just talking about, like I said, in talking in their value. First of all, just understanding and see and recognizing the pain and have, understand it, because we all want to be seen, and nobody sees us really. And it starts in family, school, whatever, who society ignores us, and we live in a big trauma world and creating traumas, and then I say just the politicians or the traumatized kids still, and it's very tough to ask them to be different.
Yeah, and that's what I think it really comes from, that, understanding. We're too busy talking and not listening enough, and that's one of the things, that good coaches and therapists have the ability to do, that, to just be quiet and listen to what's being said and what's not being said, being able to read between the lines. Because only then, when you can have a true understanding of what the problem is, can you offer, assistance and a solution. But if you're too busy trying to impose what you think is best for another human being, how can we possibly know what's best for another human being?
Yeah. I got the lesson from Jim Farrell with the Arbinger Institute in the US. I had him invited to the UK for a business meeting and to be a kind of trainer and moderator for this business meeting. And I will never forget the date, because it was a day before 9/11. Yeah, so it was 9/10. Yeah, it was. And we were in a hotel. The people came already for there, and then we saw this on TV, that the planes and the World Trade Center and so on. Everybody was shocked. I guess nearly everybody knows exactly where they were at that day. And the next morning, when the workshop started, Jim started, because we all were feeling, wow, they did something bad. And I was believing they know that they do something bad. And Jim Farrell started the morning, just to make clear, we should understand, they believe they did the right thing. Oops, that was, they believe the right thing, even if it's for us cruel. So that's also learning to really understand, like Covey always said, first understand and then talk, whatever. So walk in the moccasins or whatever and look through the eyes. Whatever brought them to do this, they believe they do the right thing. They didn't wake up and say, hey, let's do something evil today. Yeah. So, and okay, if and I got that. So the question is what they really believe, that they do this right, and what helps us. So here comes again, what is it to teaching? Is it just like I know also that people were misused. So when I visited Israel and I had a guide, we drove past in the West Bank there in Palestine, and there was little nice houses, like townhouses. And the guide said, oh, that's the townhouses from the families of suicide bombers. I said, what? Yeah, this is quite normal. They have, so I have 10 kids, and one kid is then chosen to be a suicide bomber. And the Hamas pays them then for the house and a monthly pension. So the guy who is then doing it is not just against Israel, it's just pro his family. Yeah, so he's doing something good for the family, besides the belief what they say, oh, the murderer comes to heaven and then the 99 virgins, so it must be, wow, I don't get it here, I better go there. Gosh, how we get really people to be real in a better way.
Well, I think that's what it comes back to, questioning our beliefs, questioning the mind, that we take on so much based on, the family that we grew up in, the culture we grew up in, and wherever. But again, that's all the separation happens. But when we really go within and question our thinking, but that's that's the sad reality. Is that we've never been taught how to do that. So it left one option. We believed it, and then we go to war to defend those beliefs, literally.
Yeah.
You know? And so this is what I love. The 4 questions of the work of Byron Katie to really question our thinking. Just because my parents believed it, maybe it worked for them, but I need to question to see if it works for me. And is my beliefs in alignment with the greater good for humanity?
I remember you once told me you were in the Caribbean in a spa, and you had a staff and wanted to teach him something about the secret and everything. So you made an evening with them and fall asleep, but everything were polite listening. But somehow you couldn't reach them. Though they were just interested in making money and sending money home or whatever. Was it just was it your first attempt and not experienced how to deal with this? Would you do things different today, and what could be the difference?
Yeah, I think, and that's when I realized that I was guilty of thinking I knew what was best for other people, and I hadn't really taken the time to understand them. It was really my first experience of working with a lot of staff from the Philippines, and as you say, it was there had been a big hurricane and everybody was being forced to clean up the resort, but I didn't want spa therapists getting their hands all calluses and stuff from shoveling sand and mud. And so I had a movie theater rented out for them, and we watched the movie The Secret, but within 10 minutes, they were all asleep. And when I spoke to the front office manager, who was also from the Philippines, but had come from a more of a middle upper class family and had been educated overseas, and he said, Steve, you've got to realize that most of your staff are peasants. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, he says, but they are peasants, they're peasant farmers, and that's the reality. And you coming in and thinking, show them the movie The Secret and about the law of attraction, that they're just going to go, oh, yeah, sign me up for that and buy into it.
Yeah.
No, generations of their families, their grandparents, their great-grandparents were also peasants. And most likely their grandchildren will be peasants. Then I realized, well, if I could just plant the seed, they call it. If I just plant that seed, maybe that's my role, and be the outcome. But now I realize that I went about it completely wrong. Instead of asking them, how can I support you?
Yeah,
that would have been a better approach.
So how could we support the person who is listening and being, I wouldn't call it really optimistic, realistic, because we know it from the health or the medicine way, there is spontaneous healing. We know about quantum leaps, so it can change everything in a moment. We don't know what needs to be happened when we wait from the outside. What we know, if we start to have a different consciousness and think different and influence the conscious field different, because most people don't understand what I'm thinking. Well, I'm just one person, it doesn't matter. But that we all, with whatever we do, if it's just we'll say the cable-less way of thinking, or what we are posting, and we always influence the conscious field or the algorithm of whatever social media we have. And if we start shifting it and asking the question, does the world need this thought? Does the world need this post? Then we could shift a lot already.
Yeah, and again, that's really taking ownership of all of our thoughts and actions, and being aware of how could this be misconstrued or taken on by other people. But I think the biggest service we can do for people is to teach them how to investigate their thinking. I think if everybody started to do that. Yeah, I mean, we talk about, you know, I remember several years ago I was at a Deepak Chopra event, and he made a comment about at any given time there's like 50 wars going on in the planet, and I thought to myself, at any given time there's over 7 or 8 billion wars going on, because every time we're arguing with reality, that's a war zone.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned 9/11, because shortly after 9/11 I got to work with a gentleman who had lost many employees in 9/11. But by the time we finished the coaching session, he came out with this statement. I'll never say, come to the real terrorist attack is reality. And he finally realized that when he could cross thinking, he could love what is, no matter what is.
Steve, if you can please repeat.
I think we froze up.
Yeah, if you can please repeat after the coaching session, we couldn't record that.
After the coaching session, he come to realize that the real terrorist attack was his thinking that argued with reality. And anytime we argue with reality, that's a war zone right there.
Yeah.
And so can we learn to love what is, no matter what is? And that doesn't mean so you have to settle for that being that way. It's from that place you then create an action plan to move forward, but you're moving forward in completeness and wholeness versus based on being fractured or coming from fear-based. And I think it would be the biggest service that as coaches we can give people, is to teach them how to investigate their thinking.
Yes, it's interesting when it says also what is real, because we know from the subconscious can't really, is it right or wrong, is it real, it's just fantasy. So I struggle having a lot of compassion for some politicians who live in fantasies and using a lot of taxpayers' money for the fantasies. Maybe they believe they do the right thing, and they believe what they believe is the reality. So it's not just about the fear thing; it's also the ideology, what is in this way not real. So how to figure out what's real and not trick ourselves?
That's the $6 billion question, isn't it?
Oh, that's cheap.
Thinking and believing, whatever we're thinking and believing in the moment, we've got to work with that, because that's our reality. It's how we live in the world, is through the senses. And so, but when you think of the politicians, again, it's no different than the suicide bomber. But when we think they should be different than what they are, that there is a problem, I think. We've got to come from that place of that exactly where they're supposed to be. They're showing up in my life for a reason. So I have to go within and find, what am I believing in the moment about it, and how can I come from that place of my truth versus the right and wrong, which is where we get so caught up in labeling it, well, they're the good guys and they're the bad guys. And as you said, the suicide bombers, they're raised to believe that they're doing the right thing. And for a lot of the politicians, they truly believe that they're doing the right thing. Some of them not. I think some of them are just gangsters.
Yeah. Okay, so people they're so messed up that it's really a problem. But when you say just going with your own truth in the moment, I think it's not enough, because now I can, then I need to do the bomb, because that's my truth at the moment. I think it's also we train to help them to think, because they're not really thinking. Like it says, if people would say what they think, they're speechless, because most people don't think. Because it's quite often it's just an reaction to the emotional feeling. And the right thing is I got rid of my stress and everything. But if we always would really question us more, like we said with Gada, Hamas, or whatever, it will not end this way. And the question is, do we really want to end it? What is it, how we really want to live? Like Mandela said, no, stop here. We are not fighting back. And get the awareness now, is Israel maybe going in because of revenge? Or do I have the tendency, oh, you did this, now I need to punish you? Why do we put people in prison or whatever? Or is it really, what do we believe is the best way for the next solution? Yeah, for the next level? And we don't ask the right questions.
Because I think we're not seeing ourselves that everything we do is affecting the whole. You know, I was at the Healing Summit in Portugal a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there was a gentleman there that spoke about how this village had, you know, a young guy that had committed a crime, and the whole village got together to find a solution, and they all felt that they had let him down.
Yes.
Because why would he commit a crime?
Yes.
They had, whereas most people think the opposite, that he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think, it's a collective solution, all coming together with a common purpose. What is it we really, really want here?
Yeah.
You know, people talk about they want peace, but really, is that really what they want? Or do they want to be right?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's all going to be coming back to the own history, the trauma and everything. What can we think and what can we do there? But I think also when we are trained to school, I often say that just to have the right answer. We need to help people to have better questions. Yeah, really. And we don't have the culture in the Western world. School is there to create people for factories or be a good employee, and not someone who is really helping us for a better future. And somehow it's like when you mentioned Byron Katie as well. So it's about questions. She's just asking questions. Yeah. So maybe we can encourage everybody to focus more on ask yourself question. Is this leading to the way I really want to live as an individual or in the group, in the family? Or is this really how I would love every day to spend in a company or whatever? We have the trick that was, oh yeah, I want to be here all the time and not working, just get the money anyway. We need to see, I think, also that we need to develop our brain. And here comes the question again. Questions develop the brain also different. Because historically, it was about separation, what I needed to learn. Who's my enemy? And our brain is just made for survival. Our brain is not made for success, but it's not made for truth. Because to get to the truth, you need questions, and it needs energy. And if you're only interested in survival, it says, is danger is not danger. And then I just, okay, and then I go to this side or that side.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I guess also, or maybe you can say it, that a lot of people who are so-called more successful is they can handle complexity better. And when I was 500 years ago working on my farm, it was so easy. I can see in my age now, when I grew up in Germany, it was America, Russia. Okay, it was simple. We had two main parties, like in the US still, Democrats. So on which side are I only needed to, and then I know But today we have so much different choices from social media, TV channels and everything. And we can't handle complexity. And we're not able to handle complexity and have no, what is super rules, super guidance. I think it's a normal thing that we go back. Where is it simple that I can just this or that, black or white, or do bad, I'm good. So what is your experience or suggestion, how we learn to adjust to the complexity and move up and train us that we can even enjoy that the world is more colorous than before?
I think it's that, you spoke about getting in touch with your true self there and really asking that question, does this honor me? But also, does it honor the people around me as well? Versus people just doing it for their own gain or just getting the money from not putting any effort back, giving back.
Still survival behavior. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I think, does this honor me and does it honor other people? And again, being mindful of how we're living, how is it affecting our neighbors, the environment, and so on and so forth. Only taking enough for what you need, instead of, when you see when you spoke about the US, they're printing money left, right, and center, and it's not solving the problem. Yeah. So what's creating that? It's the lifestyle. Again, you look at, and Ayurveda talks about, if you want to know what your body's going to be like 5 years from now, look at the choices you're making today. Mm-hmm. And if you want to know why it is the way it is today, look at the choices you made in the past. And it's not different when you take that to the world around the globe. Look at the choices that we're making today. And so if we want a better world, we've got to make better choices. And that, again, comes back to questioning the mind, and make that your daily meditation, to really question your thinking. Mm-hmm. And then realizing that, all the great scriptures have said the same thing for years. It's the truth that sets you free. It's not about being right.
Yeah.
We have to ask that question. Do I want to be right or do I want a solution?
Yeah.
Sounds easy, but,
Yeah, we're trained and our brain has whatever kind of pathways created and energy flows the easier way. The truth sets you free, but it can be painful to see, oh, that was not right and everything. But it's true that the truth sets free, and it makes it so much easier. The real truth, yeah. So, and somehow, also Eckhart Tolle says, just living in the now. It's just living with what is and not fantasizing. So that's why sometimes I just say simply, get real, yeah, get real, and what's am I fantasizing, and is it really supporting me to live the highest expression of myself? Is it supporting really to help the team to be better, families, organization? Yeah, and be happy, because also now at my age, the transformation and the new questions keeps me alive. Otherwise, I go to pension and tiptoe safely to grave. Anyway, so you said we should honor people more, so then I'd like to honor you, Steve. Thank you for being once again, and just for a chat. We never know exactly what we were talking about here, just have an idea what can be created.
That's what I love about those conversations.
Yeah. And so, dear listener, watch what you're thinking, question your thinking. Is this just fantasy? Is this just habit? Is this mind activity? Or is it really helping you and others to develop to the best version of yourself, your highest expression of yourself? And be sure the best is yet to come. This was another episode of Winspiration, Wisdom and Information to support you getting out of illusions, false identifications, limiting beliefs. We all have the power and potential to be more, do more, have more, give more. Reality is what is possible in the universe, and the best is yet to come. If you want to dive deeper into possibilities of creating the extraordinary future, go to winspiration.global or to wolfgangsonnenburg.com. More information and some free downloads like the email program Dream Goals Reality or a copy of the book The Best Is Yet to Come can be found on the UK Health Radio website under the Listen on Demand and Presenters section. Join us again next week on the Winspiration Show for more wisdom and information to create your extraordinary future.